Hello everyone and welcome back to my F1 22 My Team career mode for the Mexican Grand Prix. Just 3 rounds to go in the championship now. We're getting very close to the end of season 1. It's a long time into the game cycle to be saying that, but regardless, we get started with the Pirelli Hot Lap Challenge as usual. Apologies if you can hear a bit of background noise. I left my controller microphone on while I was doing this, so it picks up all the little clicks of the controller. But anyway, we won't worry too much about that. This is an average speed zone challenge, so this was the best of the 3 runs we were given to do this challenge, and yeah, we had to get an average speed of 131.97 kilometers per hour to get the gold. And as we head towards the line, we do just about manage to get that average. We get the gold by a rather small margin there, but that is good. We get the 1,000 acclaim and 100,000 credits. I said it the right way around for a change. 132.03 kilometers per hour, so we just about get there. And yeah, that is that. So there is the R&D chart heading into this weekend then. We're a long way off the back of the field. No upgrades going onto the car, probably for the rest of the season, so the last few rounds are going to be very tough. We continue to adapt parts for next year's regulation change, and yeah, we still have a few more to go there, but we're there, we're getting there, we're making progress, and I think we will be able to cover them all off, and potentially even focus on some actual upgrades to the other parts of the car. So with that done, we then head into qualifying for this weekend. Unfortunately, I think I forgot to show off the livery in qualifying, but I decided to make the livery ice cream inspired, because why not? And well, it didn't quite turn out the way I had imagined, but I wanted to make it pink, white and brown, like the oh god, what is it called? You know, that ice cream that comes in 3 stripes. You get like the strawberry, the vanilla and the chocolate. Anyway, unfortunately in the sunlight the pink kind of just looks white, so that's a bit of a shame. But anyway, yeah, that is the livery we have. In the shade and under the cloud, it's not too bad, but anyway, as we continue to work our way through our qualifying lap, so we set our first lap, and on a second consecutive lap we actually make an improvement on that, so we didn't get our best lap in the first time of asking, but anyway, now we fast forward through the session, and we're actually sitting fairly high up the field, setting near identical lap times with our teammates, so I decided to go for it again on a new set of tyres, because the car seems to have good pace here. We go up to P12 with almost another second of improvement.
P12, that puts you into P12.
So that was a very nice lap. We try again for another lap, but that ends with a spin as we cross the line, and unfortunately we dropped down to P17. That 12th fastest lap time didn't stick, and everyone else seemed to go a bit faster, and we were just knocked out. Sergio PEREZ tops Q1 at his home circuit, so he'll be looking for a good race this weekend. Behind us, Joe Guan Yu, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Nicolas Latifi and our teammate Oscar Piastri are also knocked out in Q1. Piastri didn't find a lot of improvement on his second flyer, and yeah, he's way off the back of the field, so that's unfortunate, but hopefully we can still have a good race from here. Let's get into it.
It's time then for the Mexico City Grand Prix, a race which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther winning from 3rd on the grid. Red Bull have been strong here in recent seasons, but can they keep that record going today? At 2,285 metres above sea level, the thin air of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez poses a unique challenge, not just to a driver's skill, but to the efficiency of their engines as well. 17 corners then make a lap of this 2.6-mile circuit. Expect incredible speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour and overtaking into the braking zones of turn 1 and turn 4. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Russell, Fernando Alonso, and Bottas. Sainz, Norris, they've taken a grid penalty. The Scientist, and Daniel Ricciardo. Gasly, Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, and Vettel. Latifi, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll, and Yuki Tsunoda, they've taken a grid penalty. Oscar Piastri, Joe, Perez, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Well, what a weird starting grid we have here. Latifi qualified 21st, got a grid penalty and is starting 15th. That is the kind of day it is going to be here in Mexico. Sergio Perez, disaster for him. He's starting down on the back row. So it'll be a challenge for him to come back with his main title rivals with the points advantage as well. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen up at the front. So yeah, it will be a tough task for the home favourite to have a good run here. But we'll see what he can do as we get going for the formation lap.
Okay, so let's go through all the gears if you can. We need to make sure the engagement is okay before the start. We're going to want to put some temperature into the tyres and brakes. We need to keep the engine cool though, so don't go too high with the revs.
It's been a while since I've put that radio message in a video.
Conditions look stable at the moment, no rain currently expected.
But anyway.
Okay, dry seem like the best tyre for now.
Anyway, clear weather. I didn't actually check that at the time. But no rain to interfere here in Mexico.
Superb parking there, mate. Let's make sure we get the edge on the surrounding drivers as the lights go out.
We angled our car in the box.
The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with the clutch.
Yeah, thank you. We angled our car in the box to try and get a nice run to the inside line on the way to the first corner. Let's see if it works for us as we go to the 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go straight away here in Mexico. And we do get a very nice launch off the grid. We straight away duck into the slipstream of Lando Norris, now looking to the inside, but we're getting swamped on both sides by Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon on the left. And Ocon is going to get boxed in as we go for the lunge down the inside of the McLarens, and we might get Bottas as well as we feed our way through around the outside, and we will move ourselves up and into 7th position. It's been a great start for us as we now head up towards turn 4. We got clear space in front of us as we didn't get the best exit out of turn 3, but it was good enough to hold off the pack behind. And now we close in once again to Fernando Alonso. And we're not going to be probably looking for a move on Alonso, but we'll see if we can have a little peek around the outside. He's definitely wary of us there. And now we're going to have a run here down the inside. No, we're not close enough to do that. Not a big enough braking zone to make a dive, and we remain behind for a little bit longer. But a decent start for us nonetheless.
Right, focus now for the rest of the race.
And up into 7th position. Certainly no complaints about that. So we continue to work our way through the end of the first lap, and initial pace looks pretty good, so hopefully we can continue this momentum throughout the race. But for now, we've done the job on lap number 1, so we can just keep pushing on, and we'll see how the rest of the race unfolds. We'll have a look at a replay of the start at the front of the field. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc on the front row, and it was not a good start for Verstappen. Hamilton coming through the middle, and it looks like Hamilton might take the lead here as they race down towards the first corner. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc now side by side towards the first corner, and it's going to be Leclerc who leads them down to turn 1 as Carlos Sainz now tries to go around the outside of Max Verstappen. It's been an awful start by the Dutchman. He's going to fight this one though side by side with Carlos Sainz. He's going to maintain the position for now, but Sainz is not giving up either as they now run up towards turn 4. Carlos Sainz on the inside, Verstappen on the outside. It's going to be awkward here as they head through. Sainz marginally ahead, but Verstappen is not going to let him go. He's going to force his way through down the inside, and now Verstappen's got the inside line for the next two right-handers, and he's got the move done and moved himself ahead of Carlos Sainz. Maintains third position, and he can begin the road to recovery in this race. But that was an unfortunate start for Max Verstappen, and from pole position did not go anywhere. On board now with Sergio Perez. He started down in 21st. His initial launch was nothing spectacular, but heading down towards the first corner, getting a nice slipstream and then looking to the inside, and he makes a big lunge down the inside, and he shoves it down the inside of the Haas there. Mick Schumacher, good job to see him coming and leave space there at the last moment, but Schumacher holds on to the position. Sergio Perez slots in behind, but he's got a nice bit of momentum here again in the slipstream, and now goes for the move to the outside. Schumacher gives him the space, and Perez drives it all the way around the outside, and he gets the move done on Mick Schumacher, and he might get the other Haas car here because he's going to go for the dive down the inside last moment. And Kevin Magnussen again, good job to see him coming. Sergio Perez is going to be awkwardly on the outside line here. Let's see if he can make this work. Is he going to be able to hold it there all the way around the outside? Magnussen gives him the room, and they're going to keep this fight going side by side all the way through the S's, and Perez powers around the outside and gets the move done. Brilliant start by Sergio Perez. He's up 7 places. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely amazing. We continue on with our onboard now, and we're under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo, who's on the inside down towards the first corner, and he makes the move as we go a little bit deep. We might be able to hold on to this around the outside, side by side, but we go too deep there, and that's going to give us a very awkward exit, and we're all kinds of sideways there, getting a lot of wheel spin, and that allows Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris through, and we dump those 2 places down into ninth position. So that's a little unfortunate, but we're still in the points, and to be honest, I don't think our fight is with the McLarens today. They're clearly faster than us, so we'll just focus on the cars that we actually have a chance of racing against. So we've got Sebastian Vettel behind us now, so we get a bit wayward through the S's, and we continue that on all the way through. And there's been an incident back there. Valtteri Bottas going wide, and then I think he made contact with Sebastian Vettel. Let's have a look at what actually happened here. Bottas got through, then ran wide, and then contact with Vettel, wheel torn off, and one of the Alpines in there as well. That'd be Esteban Ocon, but here's the onboard with Bottas. He was looking for a move on us, and then just drifted wide here, and as he came back on, Vettel was already there. He had to be a bit more patient, did Valtteri Bottas, and yeah, that was an unfortunate way for his race to come to an end. The front left wheel torn off by Sebastian Vettel's car driving past as Bottas was desperate to get back onto the road. On board now with Esteban Ocon, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he is also out of the race. Pierre Gasly was millimeters away from getting caught up in this, but just about got away with it, and Sergio Perez was the one to gain the most out of this, because he managed to get those 2 positions from 2 crash cars, as well as getting past Gasly. So Sergio Perez really made the most of that situation. He's up 10 places into P11 from where he started. So that was a great opening 2 laps for Sergio Perez, unlike his teammate who went from 1st to 3rd. So Max Verstappen will be looking to rectify things on the restart of this safety car, which was of course called out for that incident between Bottas, Ocon, and I guess myself indirectly there. But anyway, let's get ready to get this race restarted as we exit the final corner, and the green flag is out. We're racing once again here in Mexico. Bit of a weave to try and get some temperature into the tyres, but that didn't really work too well for us because that gave some momentum to Sebastian Vettel, and he gets through. Let's see if we can overtake the German around the outside into turn 1. We go a bit deep, but we make it work late on the brakes, and we get back ahead of Sebastian Vettel and move ourselves up into 9th position. And Perez got through as well. How do you manage that? We'll go on board with Sergio Perez to see how he was able to sneak through there, but it was myself and Vettel side by side. You can see how deep we went, and Vettel giving us the room on the apex of turn 2, and Perez was just able to sweep through and fill that gap before Vettel had any chance to cover that position. So great stuff, Sergio Perez. He's up into the top 10 now as we look at a replay of the restart on board now with Lewis Hamilton chasing down Charles Leclerc in the slipstream. He's not quite close enough to go for a move, but he locks up Hamilton straight onto the first corner. Verstappen pounces down the inside, around the outside of turn 2, and he fights his way through and takes 2nd position. Lewis Hamilton down to 3rd. A mistake for the Englishman, and he's dropped that position. And now Carlos Sainz trying to make the move around the outside, and Hamilton late on the brakes, and now side by side with Verstappen once again. Results have not been great for Mercedes this season, and Hamilton's trying to rectify that, but it won't happen today as Max Verstappen fights his way back through, retakes 2nd position. But for us, we're still going backwards. That is Sergio Perez getting the move done. That was always inevitable though. He's up into P9, we're down into 10th place. So we're still in the points, and oh, there's something going on here. This is Max Verstappen driving offline and slowing down. Has Max Verstappen got a problem? He definitely has a problem. There's Hamilton going past Carlos Sainz as well, and we have Max Verstappen pulling off the road with a mechanical failure, and Max Verstappen is out of the race. The championship leader, points going straight down the drain here in Mexico for Max Verstappen. What a shame, and he will be absolutely furious with the reliability of that car. It has all come unstuck at the wrong moments. We gain a position out of that, up into P9 now for us. But that might not last long because Sebastian Vettel has got the move done along the straight, and we're under fire from Gasly and Magnussen as well as we head down towards the first corner. Down the inside, Magnussen there as well, 3 wide with Vettel on the outside. Pierre Gasly fighting through in the middle, and Magnussen fighting Gasly. Vettel, we're all scrapping away. We hold them all off, and it is Gasly, Magnussen, Vettel behind, and that scrap got a little out of hand. Bit of contact was made, but we managed to hold on to the position as we now work our way through the middle sector once again. We're really struggling through the low speed sections of the circuit. I don't know what it is, but for some reason we are just not on the pace at all through some of the sections. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc now out of the race. So the 2 drivers who started on the front row, the championship protagonists at the top of the standings, are both out of the race. This season has been turned on its head. Sergio Perez, if he gets a good result here, will be right back in the fight. We now go on board with ourselves once again, and everyone's going past. They're all joining the party. Mick Schumacher getting involved as well now as he gets down the inside. We try and go full send around the outside, but that was never going to work as we go sailing off the road. And yeah, we have to take to the grass. We'll handle those places back that we just gained by going off the road. And we're down into what will be P12 now. So that's unfortunate as we're side by side with Lance Stroll. He tries to go around the outside. This is an awkward little fight here through the left, right, now right again as Stroll's on the inside. We jump out of the way completely off the road there as Stroll was going full send down the inside, and we give up that position in the end since we ran wide on the previous corner. We do hold off Mick Schumacher though, and that puts us down into P12. Goodness me, this is
tyre condition still looking good.
Not good. We are dropping so many places right now. We just do not have the pace. I don't know where it's gone. It looked so good in the early phases of the race, but all of our pace has suddenly disappeared. I don't know if the car has damage. I keep asking, and there's nothing. So there's clearly something going on, because I mean we just cannot fight as we lose the position there to Yuki Tsunoda going past, and Mick Schumacher still behind us, so he's been losing places with us it seems, as well, that's probably why we keep fighting him in the near losers to whoever is behind. Meanwhile, the race for Sergio Perez continues to get better and better. He's on the back of Daniel Ricciardo now. He goes for the move down the inside into the stadium section. Tight margins here, but they're going to keep this fight going all the way through. Sergio Perez has the outside line, but he's going to use it, and he's going to make it work as they run side by side all the way through. And Sergio Perez keeps the nose in down the inside of the final corner, now side by side through the exit, and they're still going to fight side by side. This battle has gone on for the entirety of the final sector, and Sergio Perez, with marginally better straight line speed, will finally take the position and move himself ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. That overtake was about 5 corners in the making, but he got it done eventually, and Sergio Perez gains another place and another 2 crucial points in the championship fight. Meanwhile, Mick Schumacher eventually goes blazing on past, and that is the end of that. So as we continue to push on, I decided to make the pit stop early. I told the pit crew to change the front wing in case that's what the issue was. I did notice there was a little chip out of it, but unfortunately the team decided not to listen. They didn't change the front wing, and they just put a new set of medium compound tyres on. So that's a bit annoying, but anyway, we come out of pit lane, we're down at the back, and yeah, we'll see what happens from here. Carlos Sainz pits from the race lead, George Russell in pursuit, and Hamilton pit on the previous lap, so I imagine Hamilton will get the undercut and maintain the race lead against these two. But this is effectively the fight for the lead then between Sainz, Hamilton and George Russell. But he's on board with Hamilton, and they've come out in front, so something's happened to Lewis Hamilton, and he's lost time on the outlap. We'll have to find out what that was, but Hamilton's just dropped from first to third. So whatever strategy Mercedes pulled for him, whether he got held up in pit lane or on the outlap, he will be fuming. Here's the onboard with Hamilton. A replay then to see what happened. And it's one of the Haas cars. Hamilton had to make the move around the outside into the stadium section. This was why he lost so much time on his outlap. He had to fight that position, and that is what cost him the time and what cost him the race lead. So he will not be a happy camper at the moment.
Watch out for the rear diffuser. It's taken a small hit. Just be careful.
And now we finally are alerted of some damage to the car. The rear diffuser is damaged, so I don't know if that's been the issue all the time, but it would certainly explain things, as we are once again on the defense from Zhou Guanyu behind us now. He's not going to be able to make the move there. We can hold him off for now, but we are really struggling for pace and for grip, for just everything. The car just feels all wrong, and with the diffuser damage it now makes sense why. But the car just hasn't felt right all race, basically. It was fine in qualifying, of course. We had good pace, but you know, since the early phases of this race, you know, where the car was decent, but ever since then it's been just feeling worse and worse all the time. So I don't know if there's some technical issue going on, whether it is just the diffuser damage, but something in this car is not feeling good. But anyway, we'll continue to fight on and see if we can come away with anything in this race. We're trying to hold off Fernando Alonso at the moment, which is not an easy task. He's in the Alpine, of course, and we're continually being alerted of the diffuser damage. Alonso gets past in a straight line though, and this is just a recurring issue. We can hold off the other drivers through the middle sector, and but as soon as we get to the main straight, we don't have a chance. We can carry good speed through the first 3 corners though. That's where our car is strong, but it doesn't mean anything, because once again we lose the position in a straight line, and there's a certain point where we just can't fight back from it. We're too far behind. We can't send it into the first corner from there, and now we've lost that position for good. And we're down into P17 now, so
you're in P17.
Yeah, it's not been a fun one.
Latifi's in the pits.
As Nicholas Latifi makes the pit stop, elevates us up into P16. That's going to make our day too much better. And oh, now we've gone for a spin as we head through the middle sector. Oscar Piastri gets through. Lucky he wasn't caught up in that. And there goes another few seconds of time. It's just one of those days. It just isn't working for us. You can finally see the livery on our car as we look at a replay. But anyway, Nicholas Latifi gets past us as well. And that sends us down into 17th place with only Zhou Guanyu behind us now. And we tap Latifi through turn 2 and that damages our front wing. Goodness me, as if this day could get any worse. Well, now the only driver left behind us is Zhou Guanyu. He makes a move down the inside into turn 1 and we let him go. We can't even... We tried to carry speed through turn 3 to fight back and we just went straight off the road. We just don't have the ability to fight with these other drivers. We'll try and make the move around the outside into turn 4. We might be able to hang it out here to the inside of turn 5 and we're very forceful, but we will find our way back through. And now there's the race leaders, Carlos Sainz, coming through in the race lead now. So that shows you how much time we've lost. We're about to go off the lead lap. There goes Carlos Sainz. And the rest will be coming through very shortly, I'm sure. Sergio Perez is now running in 2nd position, by the way. So he's been storming his way through the field as we continue on. And Joe is going to try to make the move to the outside and see if he can make this one work as we head into the first corner. We'll hold off Zhou Guanyu once again and we will maintain that position. So we continue to fight with the Chinese driver. Exit turn 3. He's not quite got the run, I don't think. He's going to have a look. We give him the space on the inside. We go very deep, but I think we should be able to hold him off as he goes around the outside. And we're going to keep this fight all the way through the hairpin. Joe's still trying to go around the outside, and now he has to give way to Sergio Perez, who eventually catches up to us. He's got a way to go before he catches up to Carlos Sainz, but Sergio Perez has had very good pace in this race. We decide to let everyone through here. Hamilton going through, Russell as well, and Lando Norris, bit of contact there. I wasn't expecting anyone else to be coming through, but Norris is actually very close to the race leaders, so he's had a great race today and is keeping up with the 2 Mercedes cars. And Sergio Perez, of course, has come from behind, but yeah, the Norris is up with the race leaders at the moment, so interesting to see him running this close. But he immediately comes into the pit lane, so maybe that's why. Maybe they had made pit stops that he had not. I'm not sure how strategy is going for all of them at this stage of the race. Meanwhile, Joe goes for the move down the inside once again. We do have DRS this time from Lando Norris, and that helps us hold on Joe as he goes for a big lunge down the inside. Goes way too deep though. The Chinese driver runs wide, and we get back through ahead and back up into 17th position. All this fighting is for P17. It's entirely inconsequential in reality. I think Joe's best finish of the season is P11, so this will mean absolutely nothing to him. And of course, we've got a race victory a few rounds ago and have been terrible ever since. So yeah, this fight, oh goodness me. Well, that's the end of that battle. We've gone for a spin exit turn 3 and there goes another 5 or 10 seconds. Goodness me, this race is just going downhill so quickly. Carlos Sainz passes us again after a pit stop, so we have to deal with these race leaders once again. Have to let them all go by, but Carlos Sainz is the first to do so. And there's an issue here for Kevin Magnussen, and he retires from the race with mechanical failure. So the thin air here is making things difficult on the engines as Nicholas Latifi drives straight into the back of the safety car. Oh my goodness. What is happening in this race? That's another 2 cars out. There's only 16 cars left. Unfortunately, we got a little bit stuck behind the safety car. They picked up Charles Leclerc instead of Sergio Perez, as Perez comes into the pit lane now. I was hoping we could stay out. I do need to make another pit stop in this race, and now would be the perfect time to do it, but I decided to stay out to see if we could get back onto the lead lap. But unfortunately, we were not so fortunate, and we were not able to maintain the lead lap, or to get back on the lead lap. We come into the pits, we get that damaged front wing changed, and get a new clean one put on the car. But yeah, this race, I don't think there's any salvaging this. We are now the only car off the lead lap. In fact, I've lost so much motivation for this race, I literally forgot to drive out of the pit lane. But yeah, I don't think there's anything, there's nothing we can achieve in this race now, because the next car is literally a full lap ahead. Joe was still on the lead lap as the safety car was called. And so was Piastri, who is now the next car in front of us, position-wise. So, yeah, the next phase of this race is just going to be Blue Flag Simulator 2022, as we get racing once again, and we will not be fighting any of these positions because, well, they are not for us to fight. We will fight with Joe though through the first 3 corners, because he's got Piastri behind him, and we tried to slow him up there in such a way that Piastri was able to get through and make the move, and Oscar Piastri gets past us as well down the inside, and he will gain a spot out of that. So yeah, that was the only bit of fighting we are going to do for the rest of the race, and that helps Piastri gain a place, end up into P14 for him. So yeah, no points, but he's still having a fairly decent run. I think his best finish of the season potentially is a 14th place, so he could actually beat that today. Anyway, during this phase of the race, the car actually started to feel half decent again, and we started once again to close up to Zhou Guanyu, and we go for the big lunge down the inside into the first corner, and we get the move done, move ourselves up well, not up a position, but ahead of Zhou Guanyu once again, and we are now less than a lap behind. So that's one very slight bit of positivity towards the end of this race. That was really the only positive thing to happen to us in the latter half. So yeah, that was slightly encouraging that we do have some level of pace still in this car. But anyway, as we continue on, Joe and Albon make pit stops.
Zhu ahead, and they've entered the pit lane. They're on old mediums.
So that gets us ahead of them. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez actually lost the race lead because he's on the hard tyres. He's been struggling a bit off the restart, and George Russell was able to make his way through on the mediums. So Russell now leads the race here in Mexico as we continue to work our way through this race. We have to move out of the way for Alex Albon as he gets past us with the blue flags, and Sergio Perez takes the lead back and not long after that. So apologies, I don't have any replays of those. I'll explain why later on. But Fernando Alonso also gets past us. He also made a pit stop towards the end, and Joe as well gets past us on those fresh tyres. And yeah, the reason we were catching it was because he was on really old tyres, by the way. So that's a little unfortunate. But yeah, we're now a lap down to the whole field once again. Meanwhile, at the front of the field is Sergio Perez. It's been a great race for him, and he crosses the line to take victory here in Mexico and gets his championship fight back on track. That is a huge points haul for him over his rivals. And meanwhile, we are back to front. We're facing the wrong way at the exit of turn 3. We had a bit of a moment, and we have to do about 5 flick spins to figure out which way the track goes again. Eventually we get moving and make our way towards turn 4, and eventually around the rest of the circuit to finally finish off this race. It's been a terrible day for us. We're only going to finish down in P16, last place. It's just not been our day today. Worst race of the season. Sergio Perez gets the driver of the day. Very well deserved.
It's victory in Mexico then. Oh, what a victory it is after an incredible Grand Prix. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
Well, staying out of trouble was probably the most important factor here. In the race where half the field weren't classified at the checkered flag, you were able to guarantee a good result by basically keeping the car running. With their pace and a decent strategy as well, I don't think the race was ever really in doubt.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
Well, after a fantastic performance, it's Sergio Perez who stands atop the podium here in Mexico. George Russell finishes in second position with Carlos Sainz in third.
And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Well, there was a lot of incredible driving out there today, but if I had to pick someone, it's got to be Sergio Perez. Fantastic driving.
Let's move on to the constructors. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, it may not have been the race that we wanted, but that was pretty crazy for everyone else. So, let's have a little run through the finishes. First place was Sergio Perez, followed by George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton in fourth position. He'll be disappointed after he definitely had a chance to win this thing earlier on. Lando Norris P5 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Sebastian Vettel, good points for him, and Aston Martin, he finishes in P7 and takes home 6 points for his efforts in this race. Aston Martin have only had 2 points earlier in the season, so that's huge for them. And Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher round out the top 10. So that is how the results finish for the drivers in this race. We'll have a look at the championship. Sergio Perez moves himself up into second position in the drivers' standings, now just 3 singular points behind Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc sits third, 25 points adrift. Missed opportunity for him with Verstappen out of the race, but then again, Leclerc had the same mechanical issue, so it works both ways, I suppose. But yeah, we remain in 9th position in the driver's standings. No real change there. As for the teams championship, Red Bull continue to lead the way. They sit 80 points ahead of Ferrari. No changes of position, but yeah, Haas do gain a point on us. They are now just 2 points behind, so we do need to watch out for them. And yeah, once again, I don't think we have any chance of competing with Alpine, although they did have a pointless race today. Fernando Alonso finishing down in P13, and Esteban Ocon, of course, out of the race with that crash with Valtteri Bottas on lap 2. Oscar Piastri, personal best finish, P12 for him. Lance Stroll as well, a good race in P11. So important positions for them. Championship-wise, in terms of the drivers who are yet to score points, it's all about how many P11s and P12s they get, basically. So good results for both of them. But anyway, I should talk about why the replay cameras became an issue, because when I went to record them, the game crashed, and when I went back into the game, it put me back to the start of the race.
Okay.
And instead of doing the whole race again, because we didn't score points, I thought I would just try and replicate the result. So I nailed Verstappen and Leclerc at the first corner, and managed to take them both out of the race. Surprisingly, that worked first time. We got Verstappen and Leclerc, took the front left wheel off both of their cars. Front right, rather. And Unfortunately, that didn't quite work though, because George Russell took the race victory. In fact, it was all British podium. Perez only finished 4th. So eventually, after I retried that strategy enough times, I did get a race where Perez took victory and Verstappen and Leclerc didn't score to, replicate what happened in the previous race. Unfortunately, Sainz misses out on his podium, but I think what I'll do is I will write down the championship standings from the previous race, and we'll just work from those. We'll ignore what the game says from here on out, and we'll go off the whole race that you just watched, because that just makes sense. We'll ignore what this did, but what this does in terms of in the game is, replicate the championship fight between the top 3 that was playing out, so that when we get to the end of the season, the right champion will be crowned by the game. But the gaps between the cars have been restored. 3 points behind for Sergio Perez and 25 points behind for Charles Leclerc. The rest of the championship standings, drivers-wise, don't really matter. In terms of the team's championship, most of those positions were fairly well locked in already. The only team to really have a huge gain out of this was Haas, and that's, to be fair, has completely ruined our fight with Haas, because they scored huge in this race. Kevin Magnussen P5, Mick Schumacher P7, so yeah, that's a little unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. But yeah, that's going to unfortunately ruin that in terms of in the game, but I think the only sort of knock-on effect that will have is potentially in terms of prize money and acclaim. But for the sake of this series and the story of this series, instead of showing these standings that you can see on screen now, I will just be showing a spreadsheet that I've now created with the corrected standings based on the race that you just watched, not the race that we crashed out Verstappen and Leclerc in order to restore the championship fight. So yeah, that is a bit of an unfortunate situation, but I hope that makes sense. Of course, we lose out in our rivalry as well, not finishing the that, but I think the rivalry with Lando Norris was a lost cause before it even started. There's no way we can beat Lando Norris in a rivalry. Yeah, the whole team sponsorship situation there, of course, we don't beat our rival again, so we lose sponsorship money. I really shouldn't have re-signed that sponsor. That was a terrible idea. But anyway, yeah, it's all fallen apart today. What can you do? In terms of the HQ stuff, then let's get into that, and then we can finish off this video, because it is already getting very long. We've already hit 43 minutes. Goodness me. In terms of these activities, then, usually my first priority would be to go for the ones that would help Piastri in some way in terms of focus and etc. But that's actually not an option, and instead we're basically just going to prioritize the ones that will give us extra resource points. And yeah, because we need as many as we can get basically to make sure we can adapt all of our upgrades and continue working on the car for next season. It's probably something I should have been prioritizing earlier on, but anyway, that is the direction we are going with these. But anyway, we have a look at R&D, and unfortunately there's nothing we can really do here. We don't have enough resource points to adapt any of these upgrades yet, but we don't have a lot left, so we're getting there. So we'll continue through the timeline. We get that marketing department, sponsor relations, spec 1 upgrade, so that is good.
Completed without issue. They'll be on the car, ready for the next race weekend.
As we tick off all those activities, we get a next batch of resource points, and that allows us to adapt one more upgrade. So only a couple left now, but yeah, that is it. So now we head towards the next event, the Brazilian Grand Prix. the penultimate round of the championship, Max Verstappen could potentially win the title there if things go his way. Not likely, because Sergio Perez has really been on form recently, and that was certainly on show in the Mexican Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc as well has had a few strong performances here and there. He'll need to put a drive of the season together in Brazil, because he needs to beat both of the Red Bulls if he wants to stay in the fight, because he's 25 points behind Verstappen and 22 points behind Sergio Perez. So finishing second to either of them will knock him out of the championship fight. Leclerc needs to win. Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc. Who is it going to be? We'll find out in 2 episodes' time. But for now, that is all for this one. Again, unfortunately, the team's championships for us has been a bit ruined by the way that the race ultimately ended up playing out, with the game crashing and having to basically get that simulated. But yeah, well, that's the price we pay for not redoing the entire race. I've had enough redoing races recently, so chose to do it that way this time. But anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It's always very helpful. And other than that, I will see you next time, where the game hopefully won't crash. Goodbye.